We are recording now. Shall we begin again?
Yes.
And shall I start with the remote access to info? All right.
Yes, please.
All right. Call the meeting to order.
This is Lila LaHood, chair of the committee, calling the meeting to order.
Okay. This is the Sunshine Ordinance Task Compliance and Amendments Committee. I shall read remote access to information and participation. In accordance with Governor Newsom's Executive Order number N3320, declaring a state of emergency regarding the COVID-19 outbreak, and Mayor London and Breed's proclamation declaring a local emergency issued on February 25th, 2020, including the guidance for gatherings issued by the San Francisco Department of Public Health officer, aggressive directives were issued to reduce the spread of COVID-19. On March 17, 2020, the Board of Supervisors authorized their board and committee meetings to convene remotely via Microsoft Teams and will allow remote public comment via video conference. Members of the public may participate by phone or may submit their comments by mail to Cheryl Leger at sfgov.org. All comments received will be made a part of the official record. Sunshine Ordinance Task Force agendas and their associated documents are available at sfbos.org/sunshine. Public comment, call in 415-906-4659, meeting ID 587-575-838. As the COVID-19 disease progresses, please visit the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force website regularly to be updated on the current situation as it affects the legislative process.
Okay, and I'll read the brief statement on meeting decorum, which we read before all of our meetings. Any member of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force may call for decorum due to disorderly conduct of meeting participants. Persons who engage in threatening and or menacing behavior may be asked to leave.
All right.
Please call the first item. Oh, excuse me. Please call roll.
Item number 1, call to order, roll call, and agenda changes. Roll call. Bruce Wolf.
Here.
Bruce Wolf present. Fiona Hensey.
Present.
Fiona Hensey present. Chair LaHood.
Present.
Chair LaHood, we have a quorum. Item number 2.
Are there any? I don't believe there are any changes to the agenda, unless anyone else has anything that needs to be mentioned. Please call the next item.
Bruce, did you want to say something?
No, I said I had nothing to add.
Nothing. Okay. Item number 2, approval of the February 25 Compliance and Amendments Committee meeting minutes. You guys have any comments?
It looks like Bruce might have stepped away, but I'll
Here
go
he
ahead.
is.
There we go. I'll go ahead and move the minutes from the February 25th meeting.
I'll second.
Okay. If we could take the minutes by acclamation.
Public comment.
Madam Chair, would you like to take public comment? Lila?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yes, please. Next item, please.
No, public comment.
No. Public comment on the minutes.
Yes. Would any members of the public like to speak on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction but not on today's agenda?
Don't we have to have public comment for the minutes?
Oh, public comments for the minutes. Is there any
Minutes.
public comment? Sorry, I'm out of practice. Any public comment on the minutes?
You're good.
Not for
Seeing
me.
no public comment. Sorry, was that public comment on the minutes?
Nope.
Okay. Seeing no public comment, let's take the minutes, approval of the minutes by acclamation. Please read the next item.
Item number 3, public comment. Members of the public may address the committee on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction but not on today's agenda.
Is there any public comment?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Public comment. Okay, this is Anonymous speaking. I'd like to ask for any update we may have on if any changes have been made to the mayor's emergency orders that is restricting the enforcement powers of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force, specifically regarding contracts, whether the public can look at contracts that would normally be covered by the Sunshine Ordinance.
Chair Wolf, I don't believe there are any changes. Do you have any other updates on that?
I'm not offering updates right now on
No.
that.
I don't think we have any updates at this time. Is there any additional public comment? Seeing none, let's move on to the next item on the agenda.
Item number 4, file number 19109, complaint filed by Stephen Malloy against the Department of Public Health for violating Administrative Code Section 6724, 25, 26, and 27 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and/or complete manner.
Is Mr. Malloy available?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Mr. Malloy, if you're ready, give us 1 second. We're going to start the timer.
Mr. Malloy, I have a kitchen timer, so I will notify you at 30 seconds when you're at that point. Okay?
Okay.
All right, great. You may begin.
Yes, thank you all for gathering today, meeting today, as we really just need to hear from Department of Public Health to understand if they met the requirements. I'll basically cede my time. I just want to reinforce that if they do not today, then Section 6734, the willful failure, shall be official misconduct, is what I would like you all to consider moving forward. So those are all my comments for now. Thank you. That's it.
Okay.
Yep, that's fine. I'm just resetting the clock.
And do we have the respondent available?
Hi, this is Veronica Vian from the Department of Public Health.
Okay. Thank you for being here. And Cheryl, will you let us know when the timer is ready?
Timer's ready. You may begin. You may begin, Ms. Vian.
Excuse me, I was on mute. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. We convened about this specific complaint matter in February, and we had discussions about how Mr. Malloy and I would work together to identify folks who he would like to search emails for responsive records of. We did receive the list of folks. However, due to the COVID-19 response and DSW workers being activated to adjust the response, the Department of Public Health has been challenged with limited resources, and we are not, we are doing our best to work on responding to all the records requests that are coming in. The specific records request from Mr. Malloy is no different. However, we do propose that we work together again with Mr. Malloy, and I am happy to draft an email over to Mr. Malloy to not just narrow down the list, to address the list of folks that he sent over for email checks, but also suggesting key terms aside from his name to really narrow down the search and suggest a time frame for those records to be identified. And we at the Department of Public Health are working hard to have another DSW worker activated to do public records requests for the next 6 months. And that is our goal, to really utilize this designated full-time public records officer to go through and fulfill this request. That is my comment. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have questions from the committee?
I have no questions. This is a review of an existing case that's open. Maybe if I can ask Mr. Malloy, what documents are still outstanding?
Yes, sir. The answer to that question is I originally filed this case, as you all know, back in May of 2019. And so the Department of Public Health has those records, had access to those records, and on October 4th of 2019, after an egregious delay, and only when I fought with them did they release them to me, but they only released 9 emails. So in your documents, you have all of the names of all of the people that I'm aware of who touched my case, and the city attorney and the leadership and Department of Public Health is refusing to release the records and has since May of 2019 because they are indicative of official misconduct. And this is a willful failure to produce the records. They have them. They even gave me 9 of them in October of 2019. COVID is not the issue here. The issue here is a willful failure of these officials to honor their responsibility under the law. And I'm asking you all today to hold them accountable. That's my answer.
Thank you. I have another question for Ms. Veen. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, based upon Mr. Malloy's statement, what's taking so long to be able to get the rest of the records?
I wanted to clarify one thing, that the Department of Public Health is not refusing to supply responsive documents. However, it does take time for us to review, and there's multiple layers for review. And we've been having initially, when we were before COVID-19, the email pulling system our staff has trouble reviewing records sometimes because not all of them would have the necessary equipment. So at that time, we had pulled from specifically 3 email boxes, in addition to the ones that we have supplied to Mr. Malloy. And we are hoping to provide on a rolling basis. And as for the other 3 email records, those folks have been having technical difficulty issues with opening those documents, since it's just technology problems.
Ms. Veen, it's at this point when the case was already adjudicated on May 2019, the records that were to be provided to him were not provided to him before May of 2019. So I could say maybe it's gone on for a solid 12 months before the coronavirus pandemic actually hit the city, or we were made noticeable of that. So I've got to exclude that, first of all. Second of all, to claim that you're having technical difficulties for 12 solid months, it's somewhat very hard to swallow, because you have to have been providing public documents to plenty of other members of the public, to which we have not gotten complaints from. So what is the issue with this particular set of records that you're having problems with? And I ask that you be specific about what those issues are.
Well, initially, when those issues would be having those specifically emails being converted into PDF, which not all staff will be able to do. And then in addition to that, when the staff were, or I believe we pulled the emails, but then right now the staff have not had a chance to review them yet. So at that time before COVID, we were at the phase of preparing the PDFs for staff to review because they do not have their own abilities to open it on their own computer. And so that's why it has to be transferred and converted to a file that can be read on their end. As for the pooling process, there wasn't too much of a delay. It was mainly trying to figure out what was the most efficient way to get the emails for them to review because there were thousands of emails that were pulled. And I believe I did not look at the emails personally myself, but I believe Mr. Malloy had to deal with patient records. So we also knew that there was a lot of sensitive information in those emails that we didn't want to include and disclose for public records use.
And Bruce, to be clear, we made
Yeah.
our finding in March this year. So the initial request was made last year. There was a long delay in Mr. Malloy receiving the document, the small number of documents in October. Then he filed his complaint. We made our finding of violation on March 4th.
Now, I realize that, but
Yeah.
be it as it may, they've had an entire year to be able to, provide on a rolling basis any additional files. There was no, from what I understand, there was not necessarily this was all on timeliness. This
Yeah.
wasn't a matter for unresponsive records.
Right.
It's all on timeliness. And what we're hearing here today is that it's a technical issue. Well,
Oops.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Through the chairman's meeting, I have sort of a follow-up question. I believe you stated that only 3 employees have had access to pulling these particular emails. Is there a reason for that? Is there a reason there was only 3 individuals with such access?
So when the reason that it was 3 particular email boxes, those were the 3 individuals that were, from what I believe to be, to hold the records that were responsive to Mr. Malloy's request. Again, I don't really know the details behind everything, but those were the 3 individuals that were identified to me for me to pull the records of. But after our previous meeting in March, Mr. Malloy said that those 3 emails were not enough, and he asked us to add an additional handful to the email pool. And so my request is for Mr. Malloy and I to work together with that additional email pool to also identify additional keywords so that we can narrow down like the thousands of requests that could potentially, the thousands of documents that could potentially pull up to maybe not even be responsive to his request for us to review. And so we can have a better pool of documents to review and make sure that they're most relevant to his case.
Oh, those were the people with those were the people who you had the response to. Okay, got it.
And Ms. Vian, this is Chair LaHood. How long do you think it would take for this to happen?
For the identifying keywords part, that will be something we normally work with the requester for. And once we identified all the search queries for all the emails and all the keywords and all the time frames, that's when we have to ask IT to help us pull. And due to the backload right now of IT. They normally have a turnaround time of maybe about 5 to 7 days for an email pool, and then after that, we will have we as in the we or as in myself, I would see the number of emails that are pulled total out of all, let's say, I don't know how many email boxes right now, but 10 email boxes or 12 email boxes, what's the grand total of all the emails? It could be thousands normally. And that is when I would have to go through the emails one by one just to make sure that there's no sensitive information that is being sent out. And if there's anything that is sensitive, then I have to review it with leadership.
Yeah, Chair LaHood, may I?
Yep.
So I'm just a little concerned, though, about the timeliness here. I mean, that's what this is all about.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about whether you have the records or not. Obviously, you have the records. It's not a matter of that you're withholding records for a specific reason. That is not cited in this case. It's purely on the delivery of the items. I don't understand this guy. I don't understand why it's taking so long. I mean, you're saying that it's thousands of records that have to be reviewed. Sure, they do, but they can be done in batches. You do them in batches of 50, batches of 100, or what have you, like most other offices do. So I'm not really satisfied with your response, and it leaves me with a level of concern as to whether you're holding these records for some other reason.
I have another question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I was going to say we at the Department of Public Health are not withholding any records. We understand that our timeliness may not be the most speedy. However, we are definitely diligently doing our best to respond to all the public records requests that come through our office. And if there are any reason for us to withhold records, we will be able to cite the reason accordingly.
I have a question. Have you, since we made our order of determination in March, how many times have you communicated with Mr. Malloy about this process?
Due to the response, it has been difficult to do that, and I don't believe we have one. However, I do hope to draft a request to Mr. Malloy of suggestions for keywords very soon.
And Mr. Malloy, since we made our order of determination, have you reached out to the department to find out what the status was of their efforts to comply with the order?
Yes, I have, and the department did not reply, as the department has never replied to me, except one time in October 4 of 2019, when Ms. Vane personally told me, and you have this information in your documents in front of you, commissioners, that she would release the remainder of my records the week of October 4th of 2019. They have the records. They are refusing to release the records in violation of 6724 because they have discriminated against me. The reason, Mr. Wolf, is racism. San Francisco has less than 4% African Americans in it. I am being targeted uniquely because of my case with the city as a black man, a gay man, and a protected veteran. And the city attorney, Thorin, who has worked with Ms. Bean on this case, has withheld my records illegally and is refusing to release them in violation of 6727, a willful failure. This is misconduct. This isn't ignorance. This isn't incompetence. This is a choice, a conscious choice. Ms. Bean is not the issue here. The issue here is the personnel that I indicated have been working on the case, and that is City Attorney Thorin, that is Kabus Basiri, the Director of Mental Health, Roxana Costello, the Director of Operations, Dr. Hammer, the Medical Director for DPH, Maggie Rakowski, the Chief of Integrity, Ron Simmons, the Chief of Diversity. The top leadership, and we know this from my case, including Mickey Callahan, whose records were redacted in my case, and they still did not offer me the full cash, is refusing to release the records because the city officials are guilty of misconduct and unlawful discrimination.
So, Mr. Malloy, thank you for reminding us of these details. At this point, it seems to me, I do understand Ms. Vian explaining that because of the pandemic, there have been some delays in people being able to respond, but I am concerned that you have not received responses to your inquiries about the records following our order of determination. I
just need to interject something, ma'am. I understand that, and I'm with you on that. Excuse me.
Right.
But this case was opened in May of 2019,
I know.
and they had over 1 year
Sir.
to do that before you even issued that order.
Yeah, I know. So let me have a discussion with my fellow committee members. It seems to me that we issued an order of determination. I understand that there may have been issues due to the pandemic, but I am concerned that at the total lack of responsiveness to this, I feel as though it seems that if the department had at least offered ongoing explanation, maybe there'd be something there. But at this point, I think we're seeing non-compliance. What do you think?
I agree. And
no, I'm discussing with the committee members. Mr. Malloy, I'm discussing with the committee members.
Sorry, I thought you were asking me.
No.
Okay, through the chair, I agree, and I keep going back to what Member Wolf was saying, that this really has little. I understand what Ms. Viv is saying regarding the pandemic, but I would say that this particular case has little, the pandemic has little to very minimal bearing on whether the department should have been able to produce the records in a timely manner. So I would agree that we're seeing non-compliance here.
Okay, so I have a quick question for Ms. Veen before I respond to your question, Madam Chair. Ms. Veen, are you the department head?
I'm sorry?
Are you the department head?
Am I the department head?
Yes.
No, sir.
You are. Has anyone provided you with any guidance on how to proceed with releasing this information? And if so, who?
So before the pandemic, it wasn't so much guidance on what documents to be released. It's more we were dealing with the process of getting them to be reviewed. So they have not been reviewed. And they were under the reviewing process. They were going to be in the reviewing process. But again, due to the pandemic, it was something that dropped off the ball that dropped off. And
Okay, but we're talking about before the pandemic.
Oh, in terms of specifically this
Yes.
case or this request, has someone been guiding me?
Yeah, we originally heard this case back in the end of 2019. So, I mean, prior to that, for the reason that Mr. Malloy had filed his complaint with us, was there anybody that provided you with guidance on how to or when to release these records to him?
It was our city attorney.
The city attorney
For the
that
specific-
is assigned to you?
I guess I don't know if they were specifically assigned to me, but that is familiar with this case.
And you were told that by the city attorney because of why? Because Mr. Malloy has a claim that's active?
That is, I do not recall that being part of the conversation. But the city attorney advised. I looked to the city attorney for advice and they asked to review the records that I released. However, I already released them beforehand. So normally I release the records unless I see any trouble. I don't normally always seek, or if I have questions, excuse me, not trouble.
Mm-hmm. So
the records that have not yet been released, the reason they're not released yet is because, well, one, there is a process for me to release them. However, they have not even been under the review. The first review of them have not been finished or completed yet.
When was
so
that?
Even if I were,
when did that process begin? When were you told that you had to start using that process?
I apologize, Chairmember Wolf. I'm not familiar with which process you're specifically referring to.
So the process you just were explaining to me about, that they had to go under review. You were saying that prior to the review,
right.
you had released a bunch of records. Go ahead.
So normally the practice is that when emails are pulled, there must be a review process, an initial review that goes through a point of contact, and we have a policy within our own department that those emails are initially reviewed by subject matter experts.
Okay, and
when
when did that
subject matter experts?
When did that begin?
When did it begin for this specific case, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That's the case we're talking about, yes, this case.
I do not have a date in front of me. However, it was a process that was going on for probably the latter half of the year, where we were trying to get the point of contact, access to those PDFs for review.
Okay.
So again, it goes back to the technical piece.
Yeah, I am. Okay, thank you. All right, members, I'm not necessarily convinced by the response from the department. The cases around technology, especially with this department that is, probably has some of the best technology in almost all the departments in the city. I'm not necessarily convinced. No, you can't. I'm talking to the members. I'm sorry, talking to the members.
Okay.
They have a massive online filing system. We've had many cases similar with regards to retrieving of people's personal information,
Yes.
not information necessarily external to them, but information that is personal to them just asking for their own records. And we have our own experience over the years seeing how technology has gotten better in these departments as time has gone on. I'm very concerned about this process. I don't understand it, because then that means that we should have been overloaded with complaints about people not getting their documents for asking for similar types of items. So I'm concerned about that. I don't know what subject matter experts means. I don't know if they're internal to the city or external from the city. City has to hire special people just for one person to review certain documents. I'm not quite sure what that means either. So I don't know that there's much more that we can do because we don't have the tools for it. It's not within our jurisdiction.
Are you suggesting that perhaps we send this back to the full task force and look perhaps to send this to either ethics or the Board of Supervisors, or what would you recommend as the next step?
Well, I think well, with regards to sending it to the Ethics Commission, there are two paths. There's one path where we send it as a referral for review for enforcement, of which though that gets sent directly to the ethics commissioners.
Right.
And the question is whether there'll be sufficient amount of review and adjudication in that process. The other path would be the 6734 path, which would invoke their investigative department to review it based upon the rules under the law, under the CPRA and the Sunshine Ordinance, based upon the evidence that we bring forward. They could not bring any new evidence because then that would change the entire process and perhaps throw it into a kind of a tailspin at that point, because you can't just bring up, a new issue when this is all in the past. And if it hasn't been revealed here through our discovery thus far, then that probably would be very questionable at that point at the through the ethics process. And they have a whole investigative department there, so that's the way that would work. The investigative department would do their due diligence, provide it an extensive report with a recommendation to the ethics commission at that point. I don't know. We've had discussions with the DA's office with regards to 6721 sections. I've had a couple of discussions with the DA and his some of his folks. They feel their inability to take it on is there has to be a matter of some sort of criminal violation. Mm-hmm. The CPRA doesn't necessarily outline what that might be. So that is still being reviewed because they are named, and they're trying to review it to see where exactly and why exactly they are named, and for what purpose, and what their job is supposed to be when these things are invoked with them. This has been some of the issues that we've been dealing with over a number of years, actually. So I think if there's going to be any kind of movement on this, it would be through the Ethics Commission. We can certainly send it up to the Board of Supervisors for review if they want. They certainly are they are the primary decision maker in one branch of law here, and we have the ability and within the Sunshine Ordinance to do that as we see fit when it's needed.
But at this point, the committee needs to send it back to the full task force.
Committee needs to send it back to the full task force with any one or more recommendations for the task force to review.
Well, Member Hinsey, do you have any thoughts on this?
I think the best way to go would probably be a recommendation to send it to ethics. I guess we could do both. And so the ethics commission and the board of supervisors. And I suppose the recommendation would be for willful violation. I would be comfortable making that recommendation. I guess that's where I'm at. So.
Okay, well, I'll make the motion. I move to send a recommendation to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force to find in violation of 67 to continue to find a violation as the task force has found previously, and due to non-compliance with the order of determination to find in violation of 6734, and to have it referred to the Ethics Commission. Now, the question with this is that there has to be somebody. The question is what we're doing with this. Okay, before I finish making the motion, I'm going to continue to just talk until I'm ready to do that. The concern, the thing about willful failure is either a person or an agency has to be named. Okay, and for the purposes of Mr. Malloy, I think he's interested in and let me ask him, Mr. Malloy, you're interested in getting these documents, right? They're needed, right?
Correct, sir.
Okay, so if we send it to the Ethics Commission, for a willful failure, one of the purposes is to get the records released, correct? Mr. Malloy?
Yes.
Okay.
I
just wanted to acknowledge.
Yes, to Member Hinsey's point, I would like it also to go to the Board of Supervisors as well, though, please.
Yeah, well, not quite sure what the Board of Supervisors will do, but that will be also part of this motion that I'll be making. The question now, members for the committee, are who is in willful failure here? That's really the question. And that's why I asked Ms. Veen if she was provided with any guidance as to do, was it this one person that was holding the whole process up, or was it someone else? And we've gotten some information through a testimony that there was some advice provided by the city attorney that there had to be some process. Okay, process, great. Should a process take 5 months, 6 months, for this kind of response? I think in our experience, it seems a little lengthy. We frequently find that 3 months is too long and we've had experiences with even just supervisor departments that only have 2, maybe 3 staffers go through 10,000 emails and be able to produce be responsive within less than a month's period. So I think it's reasonable for the Department of Health in dealing with one person for records that pertain to that person should not take as long. So the question then becomes who's responsible at that point, because otherwise a 6734 finding will be meaningless unless you put you put a name to it, because in our world it's willful failure. In the Ethics Commission's world, it's official misconduct. And then they have to go through it once that information comes up to them, and then if they agree or not, whatever the finding is about that there was willful failure, if they find it, then it automatically triggers an official misconduct process, which is outside of Sunshine completely.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead. Member Hinsey, go ahead.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Where are you with that, Lila? Because I don't know if I got a clear sense from testimony if there's one specific entity that I could say is in willful failure to the degree of official misconduct. So I'd be curious to see where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, it feels to me as though the department as a whole has decided that this is an extremely low priority, which we do not think it should be. We think that Mr. Malloy should be receiving the documents he's requested, and that's why we made our finding on March 4th, because he requested documents and that request should have been fulfilled. And I don't understand why many members in the department have essentially decided that this is such a low priority that there has been zero movement and zero response to Mr. Malloy.
Right. So then would you be suggesting then that DPH is in willful failure? I'm not arguing with you. I'm just trying to.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the question, and I think as I want to call you Chair Wolf, but I'm the chair. I don't know.
That's okay. Member, it's fine.
Member,
you're chair here.
I think the problem here is I do not get the sense that based on what she has said, Ms. Vienne, I think, is making some decisions, but it's clear that there's also guidance coming from elsewhere or deprioritization of activities that is being directed in other ways, unless we think that she is the one solely making the decisions around this, but it doesn't sound like that. I don't know if you have a different interpretation of this or.
Well, I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it before I suggest another section of the ordinance. So essentially, department heads are responsible. That's why I asked Ms. Veen if she was department head, because ultimately they're the ones that are making decisions for their department.
Exactly.
Okay. And so so that's why I brought that up, because if we're going to do a 67, make a recommendation for 6734, then it has to be named. It has to be somebody. It has to be named, and it can't just be an agency, because that is that becomes a part of the issue. I just wanted to read something here for a second.
Bless you, Fiona.
I looked just a sigh, but yeah. So
I mean, are you suggesting that this goes to Grant Colfax?
Yeah.
Okay.
oh, and Bruce, before you mention that additional section of the ordinance you're considering, are you suggesting this in addition to what we've already talked about, or as a replacement?
I'm sorry, say that?
So you mentioned that you were considering you were going to suggest another section of the ordinance.
Yeah, I wasn't quite finishing making my motion. I was just kind of rambling on because of other issues that have come up. So I just wanted to find this, I wanted to find that section because I think it should be stated. One moment. Yeah, so the section, unless I'm missing it somewhere, and we could take it up more at the task force, but it really comes under, well, under 6734, the willful failure of any elected official, department head, or managerial city employee. That's where it really comes. And let me see, just wanna. So, and I'm not quite clear what Ms. Veen's, whether she's a manager or not. And then the question then goes to the next level above. But at least the department heads are responsible for the implementation of the ordinance. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. And that's still maintains 6734. And then we can do some more research and in preparation for the full task force meeting. This is just a recommendation for the task force to consider and in review of our findings here today. So that's my motion. My motion is to make a recommendation to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force to find the DPH Department Head Grant Colfax violation of 6734 for not properly implementing the Sunshine Task Force order determination.
All right.
And you're sending it back to the task force to review and possible referral to other agencies.
It's up to the task force at that point on whether to find violation of 6734 and then how to dispense with it.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this motion by members of the public who are not involved, who are not either a complainant or respondent.
Can I make a comment? Hello?
Are you not a complainant or a respondent on this issue?
Correct, I'm neither.
Okay, yes, you may make a comment. Hold on one second. Cheryl, could you please set the timer?
3 minutes.
For 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, hang on a second. Okay, you may go ahead. Public comment, or you may go ahead.
More in the nature of a question. I don't know whether you want to call it a point of information. On the original, I would ask the question, on the original complaint, did the complainant name any individual as being like the head of the department or a manager? That's what that seems to be in question here. That's all my comment is. Thank you.
And you were anonymous, correct, sir?
Pardon?
Hello? You were anonymous?
Yes, I'm anonymous.
Okay.
Is there any additional public comment? Seeing none, members, do we have any additional discussion on this matter? On the public comment?
I'm good.
Okay. Seeing none, let's call the vote.
Call the vote? Okay. Member Wolf?
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. Member Hinsey?
Aye.
Member Hinsey, aye. Chair LaHood?
Aye.
Chair LaHood, aye. The motion passes.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Hang on a second. Item number 5, file number 19110, complaint filed by Stephen Malloy against the fire department for violating Administrative Code Section 6724, 25, 26, and 27 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and/or complete manner.
Okay, I believe the petitioner is still here. Is someone here for the respondent?
Yes, I'm here.
You're Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we will hear from Mr. Malloy on this matter first. Mr. Malloy, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, hang on
Okay.
a second. I gotta get the climber. Okay. You ready? Mr. Malloy?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. You may begin.
Thank you. Ms. Hinsey, Ms. LaHood, and Mr. Wolf, as well as Ms. Leger, thank you very much for your service and time. I want to use this time to talk about what the crux of the issue is for me. And I want you to just feel me now as another human, as your brother on the planet. This whole situation is really simple. And even in the fire situation, it can be summed up by your question, Mr. Wolf, to Ms. Bain of, was there someone who gave you direction? And she answered honestly that it was, and it was the city attorney, and that happened October 4th of 2019. And the city attorney walked into her office and told her, you ain't gonna give him that black man, if he even generously called me black, because this case is about my people were called niggers, my people as gays were called faggots, and my people as cisgender were called bitches, sluts, and whores. I don't have any litigation with the city. I actually have not docketed in any court yet. All I ever asked was to be respected as a human being, and I was denied. And the city attorney did that because public officials, Grant Colfax wasn't in office at the time, but he is the correct one, you assigned him correctly, said our white directors and our white managers made a mistake, and they allowed our patients in the presence of a veteran under federal protection to be called and disparaged such. and that is illegal. And Mickey Callahan has released under her authority that it is not illegal to address me in that manner at work, that I can be called a nigger at work, and that is not considered materially adverse. And so Mickey Callahan has covered, Grant Colfax in the Department of Public Health has covered, and everyone has covered. The only ones who did not cover were the fire department. And that's because Captain Simon Pang is Asian American. That's because he rode with me for 6 months. He trained me. He taught me. His lieutenant, Captain Brandon, was with me at the incident that the city attempted to work with the state in collusion and an official misconduct that wrongfully terminated me. And there's no case. And so not releasing the record has been a conscious choice, not a low priority, the highest priority, to protect those officials in different offices, including the city attorney's office, from misconduct. It's clear. That is the impetus of why I have not been released the records. So I thank you for your work and your service. I thank Mr. Tucker. Mr. Tucker doesn't know that the reason that I honor him is because of Captain Pang. And because I rode with that man and I served in the city for 6 months with our most seriously homeless clients. And so I have no issue with fire. I appreciate the work that they've done. Thank you. And I'm done.
Thank you. Mr. Tucker, are you ready?
Hang on.
Sorry.
Mr. Tucker, you may begin.
All right. I just want to start out and say thank you to the task force for having me here. And please excuse me, I'm a little under the weather this afternoon, so if I need to take a break, I apologize. To grab a little water. I would just like to say to Mr. Malloy that as a fellow gay man, and after hearing what you said just now, I just wanted to say that I'm trying to understand what you're going through, and I'm really sorry that you are having to go through this. That being said, the fire department to date has disclosed all of our identifiable documents requested in Mr. Malloy's request. These documents have been provided to Mr. Malloy, and the department considers this request filled. In addition to completing Mr. Malloy's request, the department and myself wanted to be more proactive and streamline our public records requests and make sure that the public records requests that are not property records, which make up the vast majority of our requests, have a new and dedicated email address that is monitored only by the custodian of records and his or her supervisor. And this new email address will be dedicated to non-property related records requests. This email address and information has also been added to the fire department's website, along with a bunch of clarifying language with regards to the types of records and requests to their appropriate contact emails. And we've had success with this, and it's our hope that with this changes and this clarifying language, it will help the department, us, and the public in working together to prevent any unnecessary delays going forward in compliance with the Sunshine Ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Mr. Malloy, I have a clarifying question. It sounded like from your statement, have you received the records that you were seeking from the fire department?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any questions, committee members, do we have any other questions for Mr. Malloy or Mr. Tucker? Yes.
Mr. Malloy, are you satisfied with all the records that have been received thus far?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You have no other further claims on this item? Not with fire, no, sir. Okay, great. I am willing to close the file on this case at this time. I do have a question, though, for the respondent. With regard, this is just a general question. With regards to this new email address that you've set up for sunshine requests, does that change your policy from the requirement under the sunshine ordinance to allow anyone to contact a custodian of record directly?
I don't believe it changes the policy. Our intention was just to create a streamlined process for non-property related records requests, since those are the majority of requests that we do get is related to property records. We wanted to create a streamlined specific email that people can see and look at and be able to identify as this is the email that I would direct this request to. We are still accepting requests throughout the property records requests, but they will be forwarded to this new email address, so that way we can promptly get to the requests and be able to answer to avoid any sort of delays.
Okay. And are you folks using the next request system?
I believe, yes, we are still.
You are. Okay, great. All right. That's all the questions I have. So I'll, at this time, move to close the file.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this matter from anyone who's not involved with the petitioner or the respondent? Seeing none, is there any additional comment from members, or shall we
Take a vote. Take a vote.
Let's take a vote.
Ready for a vote?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, motion to close the file. Item number 5. Member Wolf?
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. Member Hinsey?
Aye.
Member Hinsey, aye. Chair LaHood?
Aye.
Chair LaHood, aye. The motion to close Mr. Miller's file against the fire department is now closed.
I need a gavel at home.
Here's my clock.
There we go. Thank you.
All right.
And let's call the next item.
Okay. Item number 6, announcements, comments, questions, and future agenda items by members of the Compliance and Amendments Committee.
Yes, Member Wolf.
So I just wanted to let you know I was contacted by a group called the San Franciscans for Sunshine, who have been working on amendments to the Sunshine Ordinance for a number of years. And it doesn't look like there's going to be a possibility of getting any room on this November ballot to get those amendments on. So be it as it may, I think it would be a good idea for this committee to start a review of the work that they've done. And if we may be of any help to maybe seek out working with supervisors to get the put on the very next ballot. Don't know if there's going to be an election next year. There could be a mid-year election called by the state legislature for any number of things, considering what's going on with the pandemic and all kinds of issues, housing and education or what have you, that employment. So I would just want to put that on our radar, and we could certainly start that process at any time, individually, and then bring, if there are issues, to either bring forward or make suggestions back to them. I would, I think they'd be very open to that.
Well, here's my recommendation. Do you have at this time materials that you could forward to members of this committee from that group? I would like to recommend if you could send those to me and Fiona, and then Cheryl, could we add as an item on our next committee meeting to have a discussion of those materials?
Yeah, sure, I can put that on there.
Does that make sense? Okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
Next no, wait a second. I just want to be sure. Next compliance and amendments or next task force?
Next compliance and amendments, because it sounds like
Okay.
we're going to have conversation first in this committee, and then we'll make recommendations to the whole task force. And probably at some point we'll have a discussion there, but we'll sort of review things before we send it to the full committee.
Right. To that end, is this committee going to be meeting? Do we think on a semi-regular basis again, or although this doesn't sound particularly time sensitive?
No, not time
no.
sensitive.
Yeah.
Not yet. Not that as I know of today. Not time sensitive, unless they get some windfall
Right.
of somebody
So-
showing up saying, I'll use my placeholder on the ballot to put it on there. I don't think it will.
So-
One thing I will suggest for this work is bringing just our experiences to it, because a lot of those amendments were tweaks and refinements and updates, because it's been 20 years. So, things have changed in the world, technology, all of that. So if there are any specific experiences that we've had with regards to the administration or the operation implementation of the ordinance that we think would help our job, because that's somewhat also the purpose of it, and or helping the public, then I think they'll be well received.
Agreed. Especially, I mean, we've had many conversations through the task force with interpreting the ordinance in light of new technologies and what are the bounds of the document.
Right. Exactly. So any of those kinds of real gory, detailed nuances, that would help kind of the it's more operative than conceptual.
Right.
We should try to be as explicit as possible this time around, because while I think it was explicit at the time of its implementation, but I think over the years, the world has changed, and there are different ways that people have implemented the ordinance in the gray areas.
Right.
And so, kind of putting a little sunshine on those gray areas and making them explicit, I think will be very helpful for everyone.
Excuse me, members, you don't need me anymore, right?
No, Mr. Malloy, we're done. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Unless there's
Public
comment on this discussion.
Yes.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Do we anything else that committee members would like to discuss about what we're going to be doing in this committee? Cheryl, I know we have some other items that might be coming up that were delayed. Are we expecting those within the next couple of committee meetings?
Well, as I had said to Bruce a couple weeks ago, complaint committee has not met since December. And we do have a number of 2019 cases that I really would like to get off the plate and decided and put before the task force. When that's going to happen, I personally can't say. My job is to make sure that Angela reviews our agendas as they go forward at this point. And so when we can start reviewing those cases in complaint committee, and I had suggested, and Bruce corrected me on this, that perhaps CAC could provide some help in that respect, because we also have a lot of 2000 cases that haven't been heard. And Bruce corrected me properly and said, no, that was not the purpose of the CAC. So when complaint can start meeting again, I think that's when the boilerplate is really going to get moving.
Right.
Okay.
And then we can start hearing cases. I mean, I did have, as Lila knows, and I will explain to Bruce and Fiona, that I did have originally 3 cases to be heard before CAC that were reviewed by the task force. And unfortunately, the petitioner got ill and he couldn't make it, so his assistant called and asked for a postponement. And that's another one that I would like CAC to review. But I'm going to talk to Victor about what he thinks would be next good choices for the next committee hearing. If that's going to be in August, that's fine with me. I'll get the materials together and I'll send it all out. I have no issue with that at all.
Okay, great.
I guess this is.
I do have one question to ask, and maybe this isn't the right group, but is the task force going to meet in August? And Bruce, do you have an idea when you think that it would be the best time to do that? I don't know if this is appropriate to bring up, but it's something I want to talk about.
No, let's
talk later.
Let's talk offline on that. I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
But what I did want to say, oh, sorry, Fiona, you go first.
Yeah, I guess this is a question for you, actually, Bruce. In my experience, when we have complaint backlogs and things, CAC and other committees do sometimes serve as complaint committee. So I don't know, is there a particular reason why you didn't want to do that, or?
Well, one of the reasons is because we don't have a process for being able to conduct hearings on a virtual meeting like this.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And it's something that has to kind of be thought out, maybe practiced first, before we want to make sure that we're serving all parties properly, and the public in general, and respecting, making sure that the ordinance is being implemented as if we were in person. So, barriers, we have to consider barriers to the meeting. Can everybody who would normally come to an in-person meeting have the same exact ability to come to a meeting like this here today?
Right.
That kind of thing. And you follow me? So yeah. I don't want to start a process even at the complaint level unless we know we can follow through all the way to the end. Because yes. I think what's really hard, the fact that we already have a backlog before the shutdown of cases that already went through the complaint committee or other committees for the complaint process. Those are on hold for adjudication, okay? But because everything that came thereafter has been suspended. And so, as far as dealing with the 45-day rule and things like that, under the emergency, proclamation, so to speak, the world has kind of changed. So I think that is kind of where we're at right now. I think we can start with at least with public records issues to determine just for 45-day rule issues without any further diving in. Maybe we could do that, but I would think on a committee by committee basis, it's got to really start with a complaint committee because that's where all things begin. The overflow goes to the other committees when the complaint committee gets too backed up. So it's really got to start there first. But think of it for this committee, how we think it might roll.
Yeah, you raised a good point, and I think you're having talked about that. I think your approach is prudent in that sense that we don't want to start hearing complaints until we can have a process for it. Yeah.
Don't want people to start complaining that we botched the process. A process that they were hoping to unbotch other things, other processes from, so, I apologize, to everyone for, that it's now, it's some months, and hopefully not through, I've kind of given myself a deadline that we'd have something in place, at least figured out in August, and at the earliest implemented in September. So, but for the time being, because the shelter-in-place order and the emergency proclamation has been extended indefinitely, it changes what has all the supplementals, everything that's happened that the mayor and the governor has put forward up to now from previous. It's now, things are now have to be readjusted, and we really have to kind of focus on those items to assure that we're not either certain parts of the ordinance are either in place and operating appropriately, or are truly, because they can't be implemented, are truly put on hold. And how does that look like? What does that look like when you put something like that on hold? And can you? And, that's why through the previous discussions in our previous meetings, we brought up all those questions for the recommendations to the Board of Supervisors with regard to that. So that's kind of my thought process on this. And yeah, it's taking things at a snail's pace. But, we've got two jobs here. The administration of the Sunshine Ordinance in general under this extraordinary circumstance, and how do we continue to do the work that we're supposed to be doing under those conditions. So any thoughts or help you have along the way, and, all ears, bring them forward. I cannot work in a vacuum on this. It's got to be somewhat collective in a way. I got to hear what's going to work for you folks in committee, because you folks, you chair the hood, you administrate this committee, so any input you and members can provide will be very helpful.
And at this point, we haven't, we submitted those recommendations, and there has not been
no, we have
any
not.
response. No response.
I have not. I have actually not finished because of some of instances and changes that have happened since then. It doesn't change the recommendation, but it changes the way it gets presented.
Okay.
It can't just throw it on them without any context. So the context, some of the context, there's been, how should I say, there's been some really good examples that provide excellent context for why the Board of Supervisors should take those actions. And really, it's just a matter of writing up the narrative. And I had a personal scare around coronavirus in my household, so that took me off, my schedule for well over a week. So I'm behind. I've asked some people to help, which they are, and so any help that others might want to offer, I'm very open to it. I just want to make sure that it's correct, it's right. I mean, the thing is, I'm also trying to mimic a little bit or replicate what the Small Business Commission had submitted to the Board of Supervisors. They had spent probably about 2 months working on their recommendations. But the difference is they have like a staff of 12 people. So the commission didn't do all the work. And, in my heart, I cannot ask our one and only staffer to do all that work, so.
I'm happy to tackle some of it, Bruce. If you think that there are important issues that I could address, I'm more than happy to do that.
I appreciate that. No, I get that. I want to get it into some sort of form so that way it could be, put on paper and in a format, and then we can expand upon it and do wordsmithing. But the kind of parts of the content that need to be included are need some thinking about how to present them. So I've got it pretty almost done. So I'll definitely send that forward to you, Cheryl, and then any of the members who want to help me, help wordsmith it and get it into a presentable, form, then it'll be ready to go. So like I said, there's not going to be any changes to the recommendations. It's just more of the presentation narrative that goes with it that I'm working on. So.
Okay.
Thank you for that update. Do we have any other issues that we needed to discuss, or should I allow some public comment on what we've just discussed?
Bring it on.
Any public comment on what we've just discussed?
Yes, Anonymous would like to make some comments.
Okay, hang on 1 second, Cheryl, if you could set the timer.
Yep, hang on a second. Go ahead, sir.
I may have actually made a very similar comment at a previous meeting. I have an item that was submitted as a complaint prior to the virus shutdown, and it involves contracts, and therefore it makes no sense to move ahead with it until and unless we can get the mayor's emergency proclamation suspended or reversed or nullified. I remain very, very concerned that the mayor's emergency proclamation all but paralyzes the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force from doing its job. So there it is, and good luck, and I don't know how I could help, but I'll keep tuned. Good luck, Bruce.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment?
I move to adjourn.
I was going to say, seeing none, could we call the final item?
Final item number 7, adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Second? Okay.
See you, everyone.
Take it by acclamation. Thank you all.
See ya.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.